Well, let's save it. Hey, let's save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
We made some good material.
Giving us all this juice already.
Relax, slow down. Let's go take it back in reverse. What's good, everyone? It's Reese, and I'm here with Hakeem and Jason, and we're the Diversified Gentlemen.
And today we have with us Nicole Scott, who is a business career strategist who has amassed over 2 decades of career advancement in private, government, and financial sectors, while also serving our nation as an active duty Air Force spouse. Her professional profile is saturated with unique experiences in diverse organizational environments throughout multiple regions of the country. Welcome, Mrs. Scott.
Welcome.
Or Nicole. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here.
All right. Thank you for joining us. It's an honor to have you. So definitely an impressive intro. So with that, we like to have you elaborate on that. So what makes you a diversified woman?
Ooh, like I said, that's probably a loaded question when I think about it. I guess because I have so much experience in various ways. I'm a wife of a colonel in the Air Force, 22 years. We've been married for 23 years. He's been in for 22 years.
Oh, I'm telling.
And I'm also a mother of 2 young adults now. They're both in college. So I got 2 college students, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. 2 different personalities, 2 different career fields that they're trying to get into. And then I have my own career that I've successfully progressed, being a military spouse, doing that on the side. And then an entrepreneur. I have 2 businesses, organizations that I am the CEO and founder of, Divine Direction and Up For You, which are kind of organizations that were designed out of my circumstances, if you could put it that way. Divine Direction, I help organizations and people strategize and transition and make that pivot if they're needing to change things. And I do the same thing with high schoolers and young adults with Up For You. So just kind of helping people embrace change, know how to embrace change, and come up with successful strategies so they can reach those goals. So I guess having all those multiple balls I'm juggling or whatever, that makes me diversified in different areas.
So it seems like you just, your foundation is like service. So, your husband is serving our country, and obviously anyone who's has a spouse or a family knows when you serve, your entire family serves. Mm-hmm. So, and then you've kind of, as a mother, obviously you put your kids first, and then you started 2 businesses, basically to help people. So what do you think that is in you that basically drives you just to want to help and serve?
I'll say my family. I've always liked to help people. Even when I was younger, it was always, I'm in the kitchen trying to help my grandma cook and just always helping people. So I've always had that in me. I'm one of those people who sees the glass. I don't see the glass half full or half empty. I just see a glass of water. Always positive about things, always trying to find the positivity in everything. So I feel like for me, just being that example for my kids, and honestly, it's not even my kids anymore. At my current job, I've been asked to be part of a formal mentoring program. So I mentor a lot of young adults in my organization, my company. That is my 9 to 5. That's the other thing I forgot to say. So I'm a global crisis manager. That's my 9 to 5, which is actually more like a 7 to 9. But I'm a global crisis manager, a business continuity specialist at a global IT company. So nice. What I do there is kind of like logistics and readiness for the military. I do that from a business side. I make sure that we have all of our key processes, people, IT, whatever we need in order to manage through and continue business when a crisis is happening. So back to what drives me. One of the things when I first started working there, my boss, who's a senior VP, asked me to be part of a formal mentoring program where they pair you up with somebody, to try to mentor. I thought she wanted me to be a mentee so I could learn about the business, but she wanted me to be a mentor so I could teach business and professionalisms to younger people. At first I was in my feelings because I was like, that made me sound old. I mean, like I've been around for a while, but I have. But even when mentoring people, in their careers, in their personal lives, it's kind of grown around just helping people figure out what makes them happy or what they need to do to get to a certain goal that they have set.
I like that.
So what have you learned with kind of about yourself and about people when you mentor them? Like what are the I guess factors or barriers kind of people put? Obviously it's, you know, knowing the information, right? But sometimes you give people the information and they still just don't, you know, it's like in their head. So what have you learned from that, and how do you get the most out of people?
Well, for me, it was just knowing that I gave them my best knowledge. I believe in paying it forward. So if I know something, I'm gonna give it to you, you know. Now it's up for you to take it and do what you need to do with it. But for years, I wrestled with trying to make sure that people follow through, you know. I'm that nagging, I'm a wife, I know how to nag, I'm a mama, I know how to aggravate you. So I would continue to do that. Even when I was working with clients or people that I was mentoring, it was like, did you do this? Did you do this? And then when the person comes back and like, oh, life is horrible still. And it's like, well, you didn't do what I told you to do, you know? But eventually somewhere in my 30s, I kind of cut that off. It was like, look, I can do my part. It's up to you to do your part, you know? So just kind of knowing that it's fulfilling enough for me that I do my best in passing whatever information I know and have learned, passing that on in hopes that that person will take the information, take the advice, and succeed. That's the thing. When they succeed, I succeed. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
So with that 9 to 5 and having two businesses that you run, how do you juggle all three? Do you you know, because it sounds like you have to kind of be in a certain mind state to do each one. So like, how do you go to that place where you're in your 9 to 5 mindset and then you're in your, you know, CEO business mindset, and also, you know, you're helping people, so it's like 3 different types of mind states that you have to be. How do you juggle that?
Weirdly enough, I enjoy having multiple things going on at once. Not because I'm like everybody else, you know, you have too much on your plate, you get overwhelmed and stressed out. That is true for me also. But for me, sometimes I get like, you know how writers get a writer's block? I'll get an idea block, you know? So if I'm helping one of you guys, let's say we're working on something, a business strategy, and we're to the point where I just cannot figure out, you know, what your next move needs to be, whatever it is. Walking away from that for a second and working on something in my 9 to 5 or helping a mentee with something, stepping away from that and doing something else releases my brain from that specific stressor of that specific thing. And a lot of times that's how the ideas come. Luckily my job, my 9 to 5, which is not really a 9 to 5, is more like a, you know, 24 hours a day, but it's not really a 9 to 5 where I'm stuck at a computer. You know, it's so, it fluctuates. So I may take 2 hours out of the middle of the day to go for a walk, you know, to have a conversation with one of my mentees, go over somebody's resume, you know, that wants some information about updating the resume, review an officer's or a military person's OPRs and EPRs, because I'm trying to help them build out a good resume for their retirement. So I get to take those mental breaks from that specific task. So that helps me out a lot. And I think, again, having 2 kids that aren't dependent on me anymore because they're adults, that helped too. Like, I don't think I could be who I am right now in my 20s. I couldn't do all of this in my 20s. But now that they are off on their own, doing their thing, my husband's, you know, doing his thing, it gives me this time to kind of, and this is filling the gap of just sitting down and not doing anything.
I'm going to ask you about, you know, being a mother and a military spouse. Do you think that doing those 2 things prepared you for what you're doing now? You know, raising 2 kids and going through that? Absolutely.
When I think about like what I do, I don't think I chose this type of career and these type of businesses. I kind of feel like they chose me, if that makes sense.
You didn't choose a thug life. Thug life chose you.
You know what? And you know, Tupac is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So I almost wore my Tupac sweatshirt, but I figured that might not have been.
Nah, you should have worn.
We would have loved that.
But yeah, I feel like it kind of chose me. Like I said, I've always been that person that helps people. I always pay it forward. When I learn something, I'm telling 15 people what I just learned, you know, because I want all of us to win, you know. So when I get some good information or good mentoring advice from my mentors, I share it with everybody. So that's just a natural thing for me, you know. So it's almost like a natural, having businesses, these businesses is not a task for me. It's just naturally what I do. So it's not too difficult for me. And that's what I talk to people about, you know, finding when people are like, well, I need to find my purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I should be doing in my career. It's like, what comes natural to you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you find that, then you're not working a day in your life, you know, because you're doing something that's normal and natural to you. So you don't feel that stressor because it's just easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key. When you can marry up what you're passionate about, you know, what you're good at, and get paid for it, that's like the perfect marriage.
Yes.
Find that. You know what I mean? A lot of people need help finding that. They need help to be told that. You know, you marry those two things together.
Yes,
that's what you need.
It's a sweet spot. And that's the thing. That's what I'm here for, to help people, right? People are like, I don't know, you know, well, I want to make money. I want to make 6 figures. I want to do all of this. Okay, but do you know what comes with making money? You know what I'm saying? Do you know what comes with owning your own business? Do you realize what, oh, I want to be a real estate mogul? Okay, do you know what that means? You know, when people chase money, and that's a lesson that I learned early, chasing money, that's a whole other story. But when people chase something that's outside of their passion and normal skills, natural skills, those are the people that struggle a lot of times, you know? So my thing is, it's kind of like a therapy session when you work with me too, because I talk to people like we're talking here, you know, and I just want to know about you. Tell me about you. And I pay attention to them like a therapist does. I watch them talk about their job and they're kind of like this. I watch them talk about their kids and they kind of perk up. I watch them talk about, oh, I help my church organization. They perk up more. So I'm watching for those key body language and changes in their voices to know what they're excited about, what drives them. And that's what we hone in on as far as what your next career move should be. You need to have a job in this kind of setting because you strive in this kind of setting. You need to have a business in this kind of environment because you seem to glow when you talk about stuff like that. So that's kind of how I work with people. That's part of my strategies.
One thing that I like that you said was when you said when you work with people, it's kind of like talking to a psychiatrist. Like you're breaking down those barriers, breaking down those walls to get more insight in what people like to do, right? And I think a lot of people just don't, they know what they like, but they just can't see it in a professional setting.
Right.
I know a lot of people that are like that, which is really interesting. I mean, it's
everyone's like that. Cause I think,
I mean, like,
our country is conditioned about, you know, 9 to 5.
Yep.
You need to work a 9 to 5 and you need to make 6 figures. And by any means necessary, nothing about finding a purpose and nothing about liking what you do. Right. You need to work 9 to 5 and you need to make this amount of money.
Yep.
Get one fence in the house and 2 dogs and 1.2 children.
And that makes you successful.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. You got to make money. You got to pay your mortgage. Yep. You got to I'm putting 2 kids through college. I wouldn't be doing that. I couldn't do that if I didn't have my 9 to 5. But part of my 9 to 5, so like Maurice said earlier, like I'm kind of like a program manager also. I've done that in the government. I've done that in the civilian sector and finance and stuff. Again, it's a natural thing for me, you know, managing and knowing what the end goal is, the vision is, and making sure our task and get done and strategy and making sure people have what they need to get their task. All of that is natural to me. So my 9 to 5 is still something that's natural to me, and I'm able to make the money I need to make to pay the mortgage, to the tuition. So I found my sweet spot. But a lot of times, like you guys were saying, we're conditioned to think the American dream is, you know, you go to college, you graduate with a high GPA, you get a good, stable job, you stay at that job for 25 years, you retire, and then you get this pension. That's not the American dream anymore. I'm sorry. I've met
you forgot you graduate with debt.
Right,
But a
exactly.
lot of that, yeah.
Exactly. So it's like they didn't tell us that, right? They just said go to college. So we in college and we can't figure out how we're gonna pay for college. Oh, here go the student loan people,
Yeah.
you know. But that's not the American dream. I've over my years, you know, moving around, meeting different people, I've met so many successful people who don't have degrees, you know, so many successful people who aren't making six figures, you know, but they still successful, you know, they paid off their mortgage 5 years early, you know, but they weren't making six figures, you know. So again, just kind of changing that mindset, you know, and that's what I teach my kids. That's what I teach the people I'm mentoring. It's like just changing your mindset of what success looks like. Success for you does it have to be the same success that your mama had, that your cousins have, that they taught us in school. You know, my success, honestly, for me, success looks like peace and a clear conscience.
Yes.
You
I'm
know,
glad you said that. Yep. Success
Right.
in America, especially in America, we base it on monetary value. We base it on what we have, you know, what we can spend. But I'll give you an example for myself. Like yesterday. Yesterday, my son and I went for a walk in the woods. Something so simple. Walking in the woods, looking at insects and doing all kinds of stuff there. And I realized that success. And be able to walk freely with my son in the woods just for nothing, for no reason. That wasn't based on monetary value or investment or job income. It was based on just having that peace to have the time to do that. You know what I mean? And if people start reevaluating what their success is, they'll be less stressful and less apt to just, I gotta get this money because I gotta be successful.
Yeah.
No, but define it. What's success?
Yeah. What is your success? I mean, honestly, for me, okay, you know, Maurice said earlier, the debt. It's a few things in my life, goals that I did set. I'm just like everybody else. So I wanted to be an example for my kids. How can I do that? I want to make sure I'm a good example. If I preach to them, I need to be able to walk it too, right? So what does that look like? I started thinking about that when they were still babies. My thing was, for me, growing up, I have two older sisters. Our parents was like, all y'all gonna graduate from high school. You know, because their generation, everybody didn't graduate from high school. So they wanted the next generation to make sure everybody has high school diplomas. Great, we did that. But for me, I was like, okay, but 20 years from now, a high school diploma, that ain't gonna get you in the door. So my kids, they're gonna need to have a college degree, you know, or at least have a level of an idea or strategy to have a business or something like that where they can be successful and sustain on their own. So that's what I put in my head as a goal. So sure enough, when it came time, probably about middle school or high school for them, actually no, it was earlier than that. My husband and I were talking about me going back to college because I didn't finish college. I got married to my husband. He went into the military and they boom, sent us to McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. So I never finished my degree. So we talked about that. And I was like, yeah, I need to go back to school. I wasn't excited about it. But again, if I'm going to try to teach my kids to do that, I have to at least be the example. But setting that, to me, every goal you set, once you reach that goal, that's success. So success is not like a destination point. And that's something that I figured out and learned in my 20s. Success was not going to be when I bought my first house or when I paid off a car or when I got a degree or any of that stuff. It was going to be the journey of achieving a goal. All of that is success. Setting a goal, working on that goal, and achieving that goal. All of that is what success looks like. And once you hit that one, then now you set the next goal and the next goal. So it's not a destination point for me. It's more of a journey.
That's so true. I tell my kids all the time. I say, hey, make a goal, achieve that goal, make a new goal, and keep it going. It doesn't stop. You know what I mean? It can be small, it ain't gotta be big.
Yeah, and it's not so much being caught up on the failures either. Like we get so caught up with failing. Like that's what drives a lot of people, right? Like we do something, we fail, we're like, oh my goodness, I can't win. And you forget about those little successes. You know what I mean? The things that you succeed in every single day at that job that you don't like. Like knock out those daily goals and just if you think about the positivity and the successes, it should keep you driving for more, not getting so caught up with the failures.
So one of my favorite quotes, I collect quotes, and one of my favorite quotes is from Nelson Mandela. And it says, I never lose. Either I win or I learn. And I learned that quote in my 30s. And at first I thought, oh, well, he's trying to say that he don't lose this, but that's not what he meant. What he meant was every single thing you do, even if you fail at it, you're learning, which in equals you're winning still, right? Because you learned something new, whether it was about yourself or an idea, it still wasn't a failure. It was a learning exercise. So that's the quote that I usually tell my younger people, because they are like that. They think of the failures as, and they get down, you know?
Right.
My thing is, nah, get up. I'll give you 5 seconds. That's it. 5 seconds to sulk and be sad and upset. And then we're gonna get up and get this work done. You know, that's it. You don't buckle, you don't give up. You just keep going.
That's
you
that
know?
WD-40 philosophy. The WD-40, a lot of people didn't know that. The reason it's called WD-40 because it failed 39 times before. WD-40 was the 40th success. That was when it became what it was. But before that, it failed 39 times. That's good. It's lessons. You got to build it up.
So being a military spouse of 22 years, what would you tell a brand new military spouse, or even a spouse that's been married or in the military for 15, 20 years, and this has that identity crisis because they couldn't, ever grow roots in a certain location because every 3 to 5 years they had to move?
Ooh. All I can do is share my story and how I processed it. My husband and I both came up with this thing. It's us. It's the 4 of us. We have 2 kids, so it's the 4 of us. Where one goes, we all go. No matter what happens, what's going on, you always have the 4 people in this house, that are there for you. They're your best friend. You're the new kid in town. Okay, but you got a friend already. It's your sister. It's your brother. Your roots, your family and your roots are where you are. My daughter once, she taught me a lesson in that. She said, when I asked her, she was probably a teenager. She's probably in high school. And I said, do you feel like you don't have a home? Because she's a military brat. And we're from Georgia. My husband and I both were from Georgia. So all of our parents, our cousins, our siblings, everybody lives in Georgia. But I said, do you feel like you don't have a home to come back to when you're an adult? And she said, Mama, my home is where my stuff is, which is where y'all are. So no matter where myself and her dad live, to her, that's home, whether it's going to be in California, Florida, wherever the military sends us, that is her home. Her home is where the 4 of us are, not an actual destination. So I would say that's how you put down those roots. The roots are within your house, within your family. And a lot of times too in the military, you get closer with people that you don't have a bloodline with, because you are away from your family, but you make friends with those people and they become your family. So we got people now that we met at whatever base. And I mean, we vacation together. They know more about me than my own sisters know about me, So again, it doesn't necessarily, your roots don't have to be in a place. It can be in people, and that's your circle, that's your bubble. No matter where you move, that circle goes with you.
That's the beauty of the military. Like oh man, you just meet so many people from different walks of life, and you literally have friends and like people that you consider family everywhere, especially if you're in a position where you PCS'd a lot or move around a lot. I got friends from everywhere. I mean, looking at Jason and Reese, we're all in, 3 different separate locations and we're doing a damn podcast.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. it's crazy.
If I go to San Antonio, I got somewhere to stay. If I go to DC, I got somewhere to stay. I know for a fact I got somewhere to stay. That's a good thing.
I mean, and honestly, it's some family members I don't let stay with me. So
right?
Yeah.
Y'all gotta get a hotel. Y'all gotta get a hotel.
Look, I'll get you a reservation. It's down
I got this number to the Hilton. I'll hook you up, man.
Military discount.
Exactly.
For real.
Use my reward points, but you ain't staying here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it's definitely, the roots are within you. So wherever you are, that's what matters. That's how you connect.
One thing I'm curious about. Oh, go ahead, Reese.
No, you can go.
What I was curious about, we didn't get into it too much yet, is the military spouse part. You being the spouse of a colonel. how has that affected you, you know, as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, it is one of those things where, so I remember being a new officer's wife. And this was 20 years ago, so it was a lot different. Military was a lot different. But I remember one of our first bases, you know, I got invited to the Officer Spouses Club to have a tea and some cucumber sandwiches with the other wives.
What the hell? Sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and you already know my personality. I sat in there like it was the Twilight Zone. I was just not. That's not my personality, you know. The spouses that were there was mostly women. I think it might have been all women. None of them worked. They all had young kids. My kids were young at the time, but none of them worked. I was saying how, you know, I was going to enroll back in school and I was looking for my job. We had already got a house. So my next goal, whenever we've transitioned and moved, you know, the first thing is to find a house, find a kids school, and then I find my job. So I was talking about that to who I thought were like-minded women, and it wasn't. They, you know, thought that, well, why don't you just rest? Your husband's an officer. And I'm like, yeah, that's his job. That ain't my job.
Right.
So, you know, finding my own place where it is, but still being able to support him, you know, because there's a lot that goes into that. He, you know, he'll tell you himself, like, he'll be home, but he ain't home. Mentally, he's still at the office. Or when he deploys, you know, he's not here. So still just trying to figure out where I fit in as far as what's my role as a good mother, as a good wife, how can I support him? And then again, figuring out my purpose, you know, what I'm good at and what I want to build my career into.
And that's the beautiful thing that, you know, he didn't tell you to conform, like, well, you know, you got to go to these monthly things because now and you let him, you understand that you may not fully understand what it means to be an officer in the military, but you do understand that, all right, when he come home, he's going to have a lot on his mind. When he come home, or every 2 years, they're going to have to send him away for 6 months. And you're not going to have to make him feel guilty and have that additional stress on them from, you know, him leaving his family, going to a dangerous location. And now he's dealing with, you know, a conversation y'all had before he left. So that does make a good team.
Yeah, exactly. It is one of those things where I didn't understand it. I don't fully understand, right? I'm not the one putting on the uniform every day, but I do respect it. And that's the key. The respect, you know, he's not going to tell me everything. Of course, y'all can't, you know, some things he learns about, he can't talk about outside of work, but I know him well enough. I've been with him long enough that when he walks in the house, I can read his demeanor. You know, I can tell if it was a good day, bad day. I can tell, you know, what he still needs to decompress. That's the other thing. We always live far from bases intentionally. When I'm looking for a house, and this is another thing that I learned as a military spouse, a lot of times that falls on us to find the house, to find the kids' school. When I'm looking for a house, it needs to be at least 20 minutes away from the base. Now, people on base, they always say, why y'all live so far? Strategically, again, this is why I'm a good strategic person, right? Strategically, I know it takes my husband at least 20 minutes to decompress, you know? So I need to give him that time so that he can decompress. So when he leaves the office, he leaves it there, you know? When he comes home, I try to make sure that there is nothing major that's going on that I can't handle on my own. And I'm not trying to say like I try to keep him out of things, but the house, the kids need to be the least of his worries, you know? Now, how I do that all with a career too, I don't know. It's just
Right.
Oh no! Hey, when you find out though, you need to bottle it up in a phone and then just sell it to the masses.
Yeah,
Man, hey, you don't ever have to work again.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing. I'm not trying to make it seem like it was all dandelions and unicorns, but it's just, you know, people say what they want about the military. I know everybody has a story. Spouses have their own stories and experiences. For me, the military showed me what I was capable of. You know, I am capable of taking care of myself and my children without him, you know, and that kind of helped him be able to strive in his career, you know, because he didn't have to worry about home. He didn't have to worry about his wife. You know, now did we argue? Did we have issues? Of course, every marriage does, especially when you're married for over 20 years. But he didn't have to worry about stuff like that.
Hakeem, you gonna say something? Like, we gotta cut you off.
No, you good. No, I was gonna bring up the you said something about the tea time and the women saying that oh no, you can you know, why you want to work? You can rest now. I'm like, y'all are like 20 years old, 2021. What you talking about rest for? Like, where does that laziness come from? I don't get that.
Yeah.
Like, where does that type of mind state come from? Like,
And
you can rest now, like you just started life. What are you talking about?
And I didn't get it either. That's why that was my first and only officer spouse. In the 22 years of him being in the military, I'm very hesitant to go to things. And he'll tell you, he'll be like, hey, they having a whatever, they want you to come. The first thing I say, who's gonna be there? You know, because I have to set my mind around, you know, and now in my 40s, I could be in any room. I don't let it intimidate me, but at least I need to set my mind around what I can share, who I can talk to, and how much of myself I can share. I'm cool with those teas now. If I ever got invited to one, I go out, sit there, and put my pinky up, and sip my tea and enjoy myself. I eat the heck out of little cucumber sandwiches, no problem. But now I know also, if I was to go to that kind of room and that kind of setting, I can't really discuss my businesses. I can't discuss my job for various reasons. I don't, at this stage of my life, I don't want to make people uncomfortable. So if there is a mother who doesn't work, and that's been her goal, I don't want to make her feel like she's less than or vice versa. So I would, you know, I know how to handle the room a little bit better than I did in my 20s. Versus in my 20s, it was just avoided because that wasn't my group, that wasn't my people.
Right.
Exactly. So in regards to your two personal businesses, so you said that one is for military veterans or transitioning out, and another one is for kids, right? High school?
Right. So the Divine Direction is for anybody actually transitioning. So anybody who's, you know, thinking of starting a business or has a business and it's not, you know, maybe they want to expand an organization. I've worked with churches who are growing and expanding. How should they do that in a productive manner and making improvements? Yeah, and then I also work with individuals. I've worked with quite a few military people by default, I think, because my husband talks about it with people and they'll contact me, but quite a few military people, whether they're getting out of the military or retiring. I've worked with people in the civilian sector also who are trying to pivot their careers. Maybe they are, you know, in government contracting and they don't like it. So what's the next best thing for them? And then the other organization's Up For You, which is, yes, I work with high schoolers or young adults and mentor them to figure out how to figure out what their purpose is and what they're good at, and then give them connections to help support and guide them in their next phase of their lives.
Yeah, we're gonna have to chat because I used to teach junior R.E.S.E.T. I don't know if you know that or not. And that's one of the biggest things I talked to these students about was find that direction. You know, a lot of times we ask them, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, they don't know. They don't know how to answer yet. They haven't experienced life yet to have a thought on what they want to do. So I was kind of transition to asking them, what's the impact you want to make in the world? Have them think about it a little bit. What do you want to do? And then that gives them a little pause to think about what they want to do next. But with what you're doing, I love that because it helps them prepare. That way they're not out there on their own trying to figure everything out. You got to go through some things. But I think having that person that can help guide them into adulthood is an important thing to have. Like we leave it's almost like a gap between you got high school and you got either you're going into a career or you're going to college. There's a gap between there to help that transition space.
And it's a lot of unknowns. So a lot of times what I do is I'll start off with a personality test. You know, even if they tell me, oh, I want to be a doctor. Okay, cool. Take this personality test, you know, because you would think you want to be a doctor because maybe that's the most elaborate job, you know, that makes the most money or whatever. So you're thinking you want to be a doctor, but once you take this personality test, you realize you're not the right personality to be a doctor. Maybe you're more of an IT person. You like to figure things out. Maybe you should be an engineer because that's what you're good at. That's what your personality feeds in. And these are things that, again, they don't teach us in school. Even to this day, they don't teach this stuff in high school. I also have a friend of mine who we put on a conference. So we talked about personality. I had a therapist on, actually my older sister, she's a PhD in psychology. So I had her on speaking about getting to know yourself, personality test, how to find careers that are up and coming and things like that. We also had a financial guy on because, again, they don't teach that in high school. So you graduate, and let's say you do get some money, or whatever, how do you invest that? What do you do with it? Real estate versus spending it on shoes, like how no one teaches us this stuff. So you have a lot of people, especially our people, we go to college on a lot of sports scholarships. Okay, that comes with a lot of perks. Then some of them, even some of my old classmates, became professional ball players, football and basketball. A lot of guys that I went to school with, grew up with, they went off into these NFL and NBA careers and started making this money and didn't know how to manage that money. And one of them just flailed out, and it's not easy for them because we're not taught that stuff, and unless you are blessed to have someone that during your path, you get introduced to somebody, you will forever be lost. You'll be a 40, 50-year-old with money, but you don't know what to do with it. I remember talking to this lady who said she still hides money under her mattress. And I was like, because that's what her mom did, that's what her mom's mom did. It's just not knowing. And unless you run into somebody who could teach you how to invest, who could teach you how to budget and things like that, you don't know any different. So that's what Up For You does. It's not just me, because I don't know everything, but I do have people that have either fed into me or, taught me stuff. So I asked them to come to the table, and we put these conferences on for young adults and teenagers to try to guide them in that path. And then afterwards, if they want to connect one-on-one with those people, I offer that as a thing for them also.
So let's switch gears kind of back to the military. So you definitely helped me with my pursuit. So thank you for the resume. But when it came to, I basically feel that a lot of military members, we kind of get spoiled with receiving a lot of free services and discounts. And I'm trying to, for those close to me and that will listen, ingrained, you got to invest in yourself, which actually sometimes means taking money from your wallet and paying for services that the Airmen and Family Readiness Center may not offer, or the Education Center may not offer. And I think resume building is one of them, where it is a art and a skill to take all of these EPRs and OPRs and put them in a document where most civilian corporations will understand and take a liking to you. Because we all know that we have skills that the everyday civilian, as far as discipline and leadership, hasn't encountered since day one. However, we have zero experience with putting that to make it universal, because the way we put things on paper only makes sense to us. Yeah. So what can you tell a military member that's looking to get out potentially in the next couple of years, or maybe not even sure, but just needing to have that resume in that back pocket, the importance of having a strong resume?
So I would start off by saying, one, back to something you mentioned. If you want to invest in yourself, how do you expect somebody else to invest in you? You have to be willing to step out there for yourself. I always tell my people on my teams, the people I mentor, the people I manage at work, always leave better than you came. And what I mean by that is, when I work for these government contracting companies, a lot of them have programs, and the military has this too, where they'll pay for you to get certifications. They'll pay for you to go to school. They'll pay for all this stuff. You need to take advantage of that, So,
All of it.
All of it. Yeah, all of it. Not leave nothing on the table. They're like, oh, well, I don't really have time to do a workshop to get certified. What you mean? You ain't got nothing but time. You have nothing but time. And these people are willing to pay for something, So every company that I've ever worked for has that kind of educational platform where you can learn, you can go to stuff and they cover for it. So that's my first thing. So military people, you have that also, so invest in yourself. Definitely sign up for any of those programs. I know a lot of companies too will say certain things like I work for USAA. And when I worked there, I was a mortgage closer, okay? So I wanted to get my Six Sigma certification around that time. So I went to my boss, USAA has a program. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, I want to go get this certification at Six Sigma, USAA should pay for it. And he was like, I ain't gonna pay for that. Even though they had the program, it still had to be approved by your manager. And he was like, that has nothing to do with mortgages. So I don't want to pay for it. So I was bummed, because that was a certification for my career that I wanted to have. This was a career enhancement certification. So I was bummed, but I came home and told my husband, hey, they won't pay for it. And he was like, all right, we'll pay for it. So we started saving money every month out of that first and 15th paycheck. We saved a little bit. And once we had enough, I went and got my certification. I went to the training and got certification. So again, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. That's the first thing. And if you could use companies or your organizations, use those benefits, definitely do that because they are getting things out of you. So why shouldn't you be getting things out of them? A job is a relationship, just like boyfriend, girlfriend, right? At any point, one of y'all can break up. But before you break up, you want to make sure you get everything out of them. So that's
right. Savage.
Ruthless.
Did you have my baby?
Right? So that's the other thing that I want people to think about. It's like, you are your biggest investment. You cannot invest any more in anything else in your life other than yourself, So that would be first military member. If you're in the military now, if you're in a job or a role in the military that you really don't like, you can't wait to retire, you can't stand it, pick a part of your career that you did enjoy, that you did like, and try to either not really do a full pivot, because I know you don't have access to do that in the military, but maybe volunteer for projects, maybe volunteer in your community doing that type of thing. So you can see if it's really something good that you need to start thinking about post-military, that's the kind of flexibility that some people in the military have. You guys do have the flexibility to kind of branch out a little bit more and see different things that maybe civilians wouldn't have access to see in their lives and career. The other thing is when it comes down to resume building. So again, growing up, my mom used to tell me I talk a lot, which y'all see now. But the talking a lot has turned into, I'm a good resume builder. I talk a lot. So I take whatever anybody's telling me, like I said, it's like a therapy session when you start with me. I'm listening to everything you talk about. I like Maurice will tell you, I said, no, nothing you say is too small. No idea is too small. No life lesson, nothing, none of your experiences are too small. If you was a cashier at a grocery store, tell me about it. Because to me, cashier at a grocery store, that leads to responsibility. If you were able to balance your till drawer every night, that's consistency. If you were able to successfully your customer interaction, like that's a lot of bullets I can put on your resume and not just cashier at a grocery store. So again, it's knowing how to take that information and tell your story on paper so that it gives a whole holistic picture of what you are, what you're about. The other thing I usually say about resumes, specifically, two things. So I say it's the 80-20 rule, which I'm sure everybody knows is familiar with that. So it's 80-20 plus 30. And what I mean by that is 20% of your resume, the first 20% of your resume should tell 80% of your career. So I should be able to read pretty much your career objection at the top, maybe what your degrees are. All of that information should be at the top of your resume. That's only 20%, and it should tell me a lot about who you are. And the reason you want that is because you get 30 seconds. That's where the plus 30 comes from. statistics and studies have shown that HR recruiters, hiring officials, they only spend 30 seconds looking at your resume. So if you can't impress them in 30 seconds, your resume goes into the denial pile. They're not going to call you, you know? So you have 30 seconds to entice them, to tell them who you are, tell them that you're qualified. How do you do that? You know, that's why you need a good resume to start that off. And then the other thing I tell people about your resumes is don't put everything on it. It's kind of like a first date. So if you think about your first date, not sure if everybody's married, but you know, if you think about a first date, you don't go into that first date telling the woman everything. No. Right?
Yeah, you don't do that.
Ain't. Yeah, you wait till you get married.
you wait 10 years to tell them.
Even you don't tell it. I mean, there's some stuff I'm not with. I still ain't gonna tell everything. But that first date, your resume is that first date, right? So you don't tell everything. You got these people who walk around with 8-page resumes. That's your whole life story on paper. I don't need to know all of that, nor is the recruiter going to look at all of that because they only have 30 seconds. So your first date, your resume, is just a little bit of information. It needs to tell me that you're qualified. So whether you got degrees, certificates, whatever the requirements are for those jobs. So are you qualified? And do you have enough experience to do the job that you're looking to do? That's what your first date is. That's what your resume is. The second date is your interview. That's where you talk a lot. That's where you go into details about what you did at this job, what you did at that job, how you did this, how you improved. You do that during the interview, not in your resume.
Awesome. So we're about to wrap it up. So before we leave, we like to go around and give our audience something tangible. So we'll start with you, Nicole, and just basically give a nugget, a gem, and whatever you want the people to leave with that they can take with them and basically kind of use starting today or tomorrow. Anything you want.
Okay, so I think if I had to give a gem, it would be to embrace change. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be having anxiety about it, because the one thing about our lives and that COVID has taught us is that we are not in control, you know? So you have to be able to adapt and overcome. And there are multiple ways and strategies that you can do that. You have many people out there. If you're watching this podcast, I mean, the Diversified gentlemen, they have a whole Rolodex of people that they can connect you with. So don't be afraid to embrace changes and deal with things as they come. Life is not rocket science. People have figured it out, and you can figure it out too.
Hakeem, what about you?
So I think Nicole's just, her whole essence and career is just mind-blowing. So don't limit yourself, right? So just because you have a 9-to-5 doesn't mean that you can't step into other endeavors. So think about what you're passionate about, what makes you happy, what you like to do. You know, have your cash cow. If your passion isn't making you the money that you would like to make, do both. You know what I mean? Like she said, she has 2 businesses and she has a 9-to-5, really not a 9-to-5, it's more like a 7 to 9. Mm-hmm. So, you know, don't limit yourself.
The only thing I would say is don't chase the dollars. You know, find out what your passion is, and then find those things you can marry to your passion for your career. Like I tell my kids, treat it like a video game. When you play a video game, you unlock a new skill. It gives you a little icon that says, "Boop, new skill unlocked." Take that same thing with life. Just try to find a new skill you don't have to unlock that skill. That way, your resume, when you have Nicole Scott building it for you, will be that more robust. So that's what I'll leave with you.
Yeah. And what I'll leave is kind of what Nicole said is don't tell your spouse everything until no, I'm just kidding. No, but no, it's leave it. Don't leave anything on the table. So, you know, if you got a job and they're matching up, so, you know, 5% in retirement, I would say exploit that. They're offering free, and you know, when you go home, you like to relax and unwind. I would say take advantage, suck it up, because it will pay dividends in the long run. Do not leave anything on the table, because what will happen is you may get in a new situation that requires that skill or certificate, and you look back I could have knocked this out 10 years ago. I had more time on my hands and it was free. So do not leave anything on the table. Yeah. But Nicole, thank you so much. Definitely a great episode. Definitely, informative, and we appreciate that energy.
Nicole, where can folks find you? They want to reach out to you.
Well, they could definitely check out my website. It is divine-direction, and divine is spelled DEVINE-direction.com. You can go on there, you can see what I do. If you want to talk or whatever, have questions, you can always hit the contact me button and it'll send me a message.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. All right. Thanks again. And thank you for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe. All right. See you later.
Thanks for coming through. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content. Also, ensure that you like us on IG. And also, you can listen to the audio version on all streaming formats like Apple and Spotify.